Good afternoon, everyone. This is Kelly Frake with the State ADA Compliance Division, and I would like to welcome you to the ADA 30 series presentation on the MiABLE Disability Savings Program. Next slide, please. Just so you're aware, today we will be having a live Q&A, which you can take part in if you registered for today's event and are viewing on Zoom. During the live Q&A portion, you can type your question in the chat box. Zoom does offer information regarding its accessibility features on their website, as well as at 1-888-799-9666. If you are unable to access the chat box during the live Q&A, please contact Zoom directly for troubleshooting and technical support. Next slide, please. Today, our presenter is Scott DeVerona. He's the MiABLE Program Director from the Michigan Department of Treasury. Scott?
Good afternoon, thank you. I just realized that I'm wearing the exact same shirt that I wore in my headshot, so there you go, you guys get the full picture. Today, I'm going to talk about the ABLE Act and its history. How did it come about? Why did it come about? What can it do for you or your clients? I'm going to talk nationally what all ABLE accounts feature. I'm going to talk about why you can't go into a bank or a credit union to open an ABLE account. You have to do it through the state. I'm going to talk a lot about Michigan's program and why Michigan's program is wonderful for Michigan residents. I will also do a demonstration about how one would enroll in the Michigan ABLE program. Because this is the same presentation that I give live prior to the COVID pandemic, I always leave time at the end for questions and answers. We're going to try and do those through Zoom. So if you have any questions, you can do that through the chat feature on Zoom. So let's talk about the ABLE Act and its history. The ABLE Act passed in December of 2014 to overwhelming congressional support. This was one of those laws that everybody in Congress said, yeah, this is a really good idea. Because for far too long, we have told individuals with disabilities, stay broke. Let the government take care of you. Don't ever have more than $2,000 in assets or you're going to lose your access to Medicaid. When the ADA was passed 30 years ago, which is actually what we're here to celebrate, most individuals, looking at that legislation were concerned with accessibility. Making sure that individuals with disabilities had access to libraries and museums and public places and things like that. And I think for the most part, we've done a really good job ensuring that disability access is there. But the second part of the ADA that was not addressed until December of 2014, just 4 years ago, was the ability for individuals with disabilities to become economically self-sufficient. They cannot become economically self-sufficient if you are limited to $2,000 in assets. So Congress, realizing that short-sightedness, passed the ABLE Act, which is 529A of IRS code. And what it did is it created an authorized savings account just for individuals with disabilities. You must have a disability to have an ABLE account. The accounts enable individuals to save for their future expenses while protecting eligibility for public benefits. You do not have to worry about losing your public benefits like Medicaid or any of the programs that Medicaid administers because of your ABLE account. If you have earnings in your ABLE account, they grow tax-free as long as those funds have been used for qualified disability expenses. Now, I know a number of you work in state government. I know a number of you, well, all of us have to deal with state government. And one of the things that government loves is acronyms, right? There's an acronym for everything. CIA, IRS, FBI, you name it, there's an acronym for it. Well, the acronym that you need to know for ABLE is QDE, Qualified Disability Expenses. We talk a lot about those because that's the number one question that people have. What can I do with my money once I've saved it in an ABLE account? So let's talk nationally. There are 46 different states that have an ABLE program. Michigan was the 5th state in the United States to go live. The rules are pretty simple. You're limited to one account per eligible individual, which means you can only have one. If you open an ABLE account in another state, you'd have to close that account to transfer that money to Michigan. The account owner is the designated beneficiary. The money belongs to the person with the disability. Regardless of who put it there, regardless of how it got there or what it has earned, the money belongs to the person with the disability. Now, because we have a number of people with disabilities who aren't capable of handling their finances, the IRS does allow different people to open accounts on behalf of an individual with disability. So parents, grandparents, spouse, sibling, powers of attorney, or anyone who has been granted court-appointed guardianship can open an ABLE account. Furthermore, the Social Security Administration designated representative payees are permitted to open ABLE accounts as well. Total annual contributions for ABLE accounts cannot exceed the federal gift tax limit. The federal gift tax limit is determined each year by the IRS. For 2020, that limit is $15,000. I have not seen the gift tax limit published for 2021 yet. When it is published, we will send out information to our beneficiaries that tells them what their limit is for next year. For individuals with disabilities who are employed, they are allowed additional contributions on top of that $15,000. So they can contribute up to the federal poverty limit or their income, whichever is least, on top of that $15,000. So someone in Michigan could theoretically shelter $27,440 in an ABLE account in 2020. The IRS does allow individuals to roll over money from a 529 education account into a 529 ABLE account. That provision does sunset in 2025, which means you only have a little more than 4 years to do that if that's what you want to do. One of the most important aspects of ABLE accounts is that any assets in an ABLE account are excluded from Medicaid eligibility. In addition to standard Medicaid, that also includes all the waiver programs like home and community-based waiver, traumatic brain injury waiver, children's special health care services. Any Medicaid administered program, they will not look at your ABLE account to determine eligibility. In exchange for that, Medicaid does have the legal right to claw back, that's their word, any money that they have spent while the ABLE account has been opened. Where it is their ability to do so, Michigan Medicaid has never made a claim to the remainder of an ABLE account when a beneficiary passes away. I can't tell you they never will. I can tell you they never have to date. ABLE assets over $100,000 do count as a resource for Social Security income. It doesn't change the eligibility, but payments are suspended once the $100,000 threshold has been reached. A lot of people ask me, I can't jeopardize, that income stream. Why would I want to have more than $100,000 in my account? My answer to that is, you're right. You might not want to have that $100,000. Start using the money in the ABLE account. That's what it's there for. Who's eligible to open an ABLE account? Anyone who became disabled prior to age 26. I'm going to talk about the asterisks momentarily. As long as you don't have an ABLE account open in any other state. If you have already opened an ABLE account in another state and you want to convert it to Michigan's program, we can do a program-to-program transfer. There are 3 ways that you can prove eligibility. You can be eligible for SSI or SSDI because of a disability. You can have a condition listed on the Social Security Administration Compassionate Allowances List, which is a pretty exhaustive list of conditions that the Social Security Administration agrees this is disabling. Furthermore, the IRS allows individuals to self-certify, to basically with a doctor's note state, I have a disability, it happened before age 26, and I need to open an ABLE account. Now, I talked a little bit about the age limit up above. Senate Bill 651 and House Resolution 1814 have been proposed in Congress to raise the age of onset from 26 to 46. I believe that provision will pass. I just can't tell you when. Congress has been really, really busy lately. So I don't see it changing during a lame duck session. I assume it'll probably be re-enrolled in the next Congress once they take their seats in January. One of the, for lack of a better term, detriments of this program is that there are individuals with disabilities that I can't help. There are individuals who become disabled after age 26 that are not eligible for this program. There are a number of disabled veterans who receive their disability after age 26. They can't participate in this program. There are people who are diagnosed with conditions later in life, multiple sclerosis, ALS. They typically happen after age 26. These people cannot participate in this program. Congress has recognized the short-sightedness of the age limit, and that's why they're considering raising the age. Like I said, I don't know when it will happen. I believe it will happen. I just don't know when. Okay, we talked earlier about qualified disability expenses. Here comes the slides that talk about them. What can the money be used for once I have contributed to my ABLE account? Distributions from ABLE accounts or withdrawals from ABLE accounts must be used for qualified disability expenses. And they are defined as costs related to the beneficiary's disability or blindness. They must be used for the benefit of the person who owns the account, which means they can't withdraw money from the account and give it away as a gift. It has to be used for that person's care. Tracking of QDE is a responsibility of the owner of the account or whomever the owner of the account has designated as their authorized representative. Remember, that could be a parent, sibling, spouse, power of attorney, guardian, rep payee. Whoever helps them with their finances is responsible for tracking that. Because disability expenses are subject to audit by the IRS and the Social Security Administration. I would love to be able to tell you what some of the things they're looking for are. I can't because it hasn't happened yet. There haven't been any audits by the IRS or Social Security Administration for the Michigan ABLE program yet. So let's talk specifics. This is from the IRS legislation. QDE, the definition of QDE is meant to be as broad as possible and includes the expenses of everyday living. So just like you can use your 529 education account for tuition, books, fees, the costs of education, of higher education, you can use your ABLE account for all of those expenses as well. In addition, you can also use your ABLE account to pay for housing expenses, rent, mortgage, utilities, garbage removal service, internet service provider fees, anything that you need to pay for as a result of running or maintaining a household, you can consider an allowable expense out of an ABLE account. Any form of transportation, whether that's the purchase of a wheelchair accessible van, a bus pass, paying for an Uber, those are all allowable expenses. If you need to pay for a flight, you can pay for a flight out of ABLE accounts because it's an allowable expense. Any healthcare expenses like pharmacy costs, like durable medical equipment, or trips to the doctor, co-pays, if you have to pay for an x-ray, all medical expenses can be used from an ABLE account. Anything that's going to help an individual with a disability become more employable is an allowable expense. So you could pay for a certificate to get heating and air conditioning certificate or a refrigeration certificate. You could pay for a resume writing class. Any of those expenses you can use your ABLE account for, and that is an allowable expense. Any form of assistive technology, those cart services that some of you might be reading right now, that's an allowable expense out of an ABLE account. If you need to purchase a TTY machine, if you need to purchase an iPad or an e-reader, anything that's going to help assist you because of a disability is an allowable expense. If you need to pay for the services of a person to come into the home to help with cooking or cleaning, bathing, anything that's going to help with the activities of everyday living, those are allowable expenses from an ABLE account as well. If you need to pay for the services of a CPA or an attorney because of a disability, you can pay for that out of the ABLE account as well. One of the questions I get here is, can I pay for a special needs trust attorney out of an ABLE account? The answer to that question is yes. And the final thing that the IRS allows for ABLE accounts is end-of-life expenses. So if you need to pay for a funeral or cremation services or any of the services that go along with end of life, you can use the ABLE account to pay for that as well. Distributions for non-qualified expenses are subject to tax consequences and may impact eligibility for federal or state means tested benefits. What does that mean? Basically, it means don't use these accounts for stuff that's not disability related, which means stuff that's not on this list. So the number one question that I get is, what shouldn't I use this account for? And we have a handful of examples that we think you're going to have a hard time proving to the IRS that, yeah, this is a disability expense. Number one is jewelry, a diamond ring or a diamond tiara. You're going to have a hard time justifying to the IRS that that's a disability expense. Now, a medic alert bracelet or a watch that helps someone with visual problems tell time, absolutely, that's going to qualify. But a purely decorative jewelry, I wouldn't spend your ABLE account money on that. Trips to the casino, cigarettes, alcohol, those kinds of things. I'm not saying don't buy those things. I'm not saying don't go to the casino. By all means, go to the casino. But don't use your ABLE account to pay for it, okay? Use the ABLE account for what it's for, long-term savings of disability-related expenses. So let's talk about what Michigan has done to make this program great for Michigan residents. Number one, anyone who contributes to an ABLE account can claim up to a $5,000 income tax deduction on their Michigan income tax return. And if you're married and filing jointly, you can contribute and take a deduction up to $10,000 on an annual basis. Michigan also increased its 529 limit to $500,000. It's one of the highest limits in the nation. So theoretically, people could shelter a high amount of money in an ABLE account to help pay for disability expenses. The MiABLE program offers 5 different investment options. We have a very aggressive 100% stock option, and that ratchets down all the way to 20% in stock. Those investment options vary in risk and vary in cost, but all of our investment costs are under 1%. We also have a program management fee of 0.5% and a $45 annual fee that's charged quarterly, $11.25 every quarter. Because we offer 5 different investment options, I want to tell you that you can change your investments twice per calendar year. But moving money from an investment account into the cash account for distribution does not count as an investment change. In addition to our investment options, we do offer an FDIC insured money market option, which does come with a debit card, so that you can use this debit card anywhere Visa is accepted to make your purchases at the pharmacy or anywhere else where you want to purchase a disability-related expense. In addition to those options, for those families who have an investment advisor and want to do their own investing, we can enroll that investment advisor in our program so that the investments they create for you are still contained under the 529 ABLE umbrella and therefore are not subject to the Medicaid eligibility issues. I want to talk a little bit about customer service right now, because the reason that we have a customer service line is to help individuals with disabilities navigate the system, to help them enroll, to make contributions, to make withdrawals. The phone number is 844-656-7225. They have been specially trained to help individuals with disabilities navigate the system, explain their questions. One thing I must mention is that neither customer service nor I can give investment advice. We are not stockbrokers. We're not going to tell you where to invest your money. We will tell you how to make those selections so that you can invest your money, but we can't tell you how to invest the money. All of the information that I'm going over, including the PowerPoint, are available on our website, which is www.miable.org. In addition to the PowerPoint and all the FAQs and the eligibility quiz and things like that, all the information for enrollment is on that page as well. A number of times people ask me whether they should get an ABLE account if they have a special needs trust. Well, the answer is they can work together. They are not mutually exclusive. You don't have to choose just one. There are some benefits to a special needs trust that I can't help you with. There are also some advantages to a MiABLE account. One of them, first of all, is it's cost effective. It's going to cost you less than $50 a year to have an ABLE account. You have broader spending power. You can use it for things like education and transportation and housing that you might not be able to in your trust. Easy online account access. I'm going to show you that momentarily. In addition to that, you can also get a state tax deduction for any contributions to an ABLE account. You don't have to worry about filing any federal or state tax returns because of an ABLE account. But the most important thing, and the thing that we're really touting, is because this population has never had a financial product that is just for them, these accounts are important because they can be established, administered, and owned by the person with the disability. This can be their first chance to plan for their financial future and have economic self-sufficiency. So this is our website. As I mentioned earlier, it's www.miable.org. And I'm going to go right across the top just so you can have an idea as to what is on the website. Why MiABLE just talks about the benefits of opening an ABLE account and why you'd want to do that. Account holders, that under that tab is where you can make your investment decisions, like making allocations to different investment options. Give a gift, I'm going to talk about in a second. The Contact Us tab gives a link to our email, our TTY, and our toll-free hotline. If you have questions about the program, if you have questions about navigation or how to do certain things, that's where you can contact there. So if you're ready to open an account, the first thing we ask you to do is to create a username and password. And then we also need to have information as to who's opening the account. Are you the beneficiary? Are you the parent? Are you the spouse? That kind of thing. We're going to need a lot of demographic information. This is an account that you are opening with the state of Michigan. So we are going to need names, addresses, dates of birth, social security numbers, any of the demographic things that you're going to need to open a bank account or to open a type of investment account, you're going to need in order to open an ABLE account as well. We have to go through the same identity theft checks that any other organization opening a financial transaction has to go through. So I just want you to be prepared for that. And I did not put those slides in here because, quite frankly, they're kind of boring because everybody knows that information is going to be required. We do ask for electronic delivery of documents because it's going to be 2021 here in about 60 days. And it's just easier and cheaper for us to get information to you electronically than it is to put a stamp on it and send it through the mail. We do have the ability to add an authorized signer. So if both mom and dad want access to an account, or if you have a rep payee and a guardian or a family member who wants to be listed on the account, we can do that as well. This is our investment allocation slide. As I said, we have 5 different investment options that are available to you. You don't have to choose one. You could choose all 5. You could make different allocations to each of those investments if that's how you want to do your investments. Once again, I can't give advice. I can just offer the options. One of the things that Michigan has done on our website that so far no other state has duplicated as effectively is the ability to create a public profile, the ability to crowdfund your MiABLE account. You can completely optionally create a public profile that tells your story. You know, you can tell people, my name is Scott. I have a developmentally disabled daughter who I'm saving for her education. Would you consider making a contribution? Once again, it's completely optional. You do not have to do this. You're not required to do this. But I do know there are some significant advantages to doing this because in addition to families, friends, teachers, classmates, perfect strangers have made contributions to these accounts, and some of those have been significant. This is our actual website. These are actual live MiABLE beneficiaries. And you can scroll through and you can read their stories. You can see their pictures. You can hear about their struggles. You can hear about why they've opened an MiABLE account, what their dreams are. You also have a search option. So if you're looking for somebody in particular, you can type their name in and it'll give you their profile. Once you've selected the person you want to make a donation to, you just click on their name and you have two options to make a contribution. You can make an online contribution just with your bank account and account number and routing number through the ACH process. Or on the right-hand side, you can see where it says get a coupon. You can print out an invoice that says, here's the account, here's where you send the check, and you can deposit the money directly to your selected account through the checking account. We cannot accept credit card donations because these are investment accounts. So I want to make sure that's clear. If somebody wants to make a donation, it has to be from a bank account, not a credit card account. Okay, I'm going to stop right now and check for questions and answers on the chat. Let's see if I can see any.
This is Kelly, the moderator. We have just opened the chat. So if you do have questions for Scott, please go ahead and type them in the chat now. And just as a reminder, we are using the chat function today. If you're having issues with that, that's the information for how to contact Zoom if you need that technical assistance. And to access the chat, you can go to the lower portion of the screen, click on the chat button, and start typing in your question. Scott, as we wait for some questions to come in, I did have one to ask you regarding those donation profiles.
Okay.
Are you aware of, or is it at all common for businesses to donate to an individual, or is that allowed?
It is allowed. Once again, it just has to be through a checking account, or they have to write a check. But yeah, there's no, I guess the word I'm looking for is limit. There's nothing that prevents a corporate donor, let's say. However, and this is just what I'm thinking about right now, if a corporation wanted to make that donation, it might actually be better to have that donation come from an individual person, because then they could take the income tax deduction on their income tax return. The corporation or the company would not get that deduction.
Thanks, Scott. We had another question come in. Would someone diagnosed with ADHD as a child, but not getting SSA benefits, would they qualify?
Linda, that's a great question. And that qualifications are, if QDE is the first question, is how do I qualify is the second question. So the answer to that question is yes. If a physician deems that that condition is a disabling condition and it happened prior to age 26, yes, that person would qualify for an MiABLE account. And that would include anyone with any sort of mental or developmental issue. They are when I say they, I mean the IRS. The IRS regulations are intentionally broad. They are intentionally more inclusive than it has to be one of these specific diagnoses. So, because they want people to use these accounts. They created these accounts for those individuals with disabilities who have been told, don't save money. There's no other population in the country that we've told, don't save, don't plan for your future. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense to anybody else. So that's why they created these. Okay. Can you send out a PDF copy of the presentation to the participants? Actually, and I'm not sure if I mentioned this, but I'm going to go ahead and say it again. On our website, if you go to miable.org, at the bottom of the page, there is a presentation link. All of the slides are there that you can print off and you can share with whoever you'd like. In addition to that, there are webinars that I've conducted when actually I've done this same presentation you could actually stream that so that you could, if somebody wanted to listen to me for half an hour, you could send them that link and they can watch the same presentation that I've just given.
And this is Kelly. I'm just jumping in because we had a question about where the recording will be posted. So the recording for today's session will be posted on the ADA 30 playlist on the Michigan Department of Civil Rights YouTube channel. So we do have an ADA 30 playlist where we're posting all of our recorded sessions that will be on that playlist. We have another question. If person has Section 8, will this affect that?
Okay, Section 8 is administered by the Department of Housing and Urban Development. And Section 8 is, that qualification is determined on income. So because an ABLE account is not an income shelter, it is an asset shelter, it will not impact Section 8 eligibility. And the Department of the Department of Housing and Urban Development did send out notification that ABLE accounts are excluded from their eligibility checks anyway, even though it's income that drives Section 8 eligibility, not assets. So really long answer to a really short question. The answer is no, it will not impact Section 8.
Thanks, Scott. This is Kelly again. I had another couple questions from myself that I had been making note of. I know you mentioned that the account can be used for accommodations earlier, things like assistive technology or maybe an ASL interpreter or other disability services. I'm wondering, can these also be purchased for somebody's job? Like say they needed a workplace accommodation and they had a preferred accommodation and perhaps it was too, it was burdensome for the employer, so they weren't able to get it through the employer. Can they use this account to get that preferred accommodation?
Yes. Yes, it's a disability related expense. Absolutely. Any form of assistive technology, anything that's going to help them either maintain employment or become more employable, absolutely, those are allowable expenses.
Awesome. Thanks, Scott. Another question that came in, what is a disability certification that has to be signed by a qualified physician?
The actual statute says that we have to get a disability certification. The answer is it can be as simple as the doctor writing on a prescription pad, this person has condition X or whatever the condition is. I can tell you this, I've been the program director for 5 years now. Neither the IRS nor the Social Security Administration has ever asked me for anyone's disability certification. Might it happen in the future? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, the people who are utilizing these accounts have a genuine disability, that they are using these accounts to prepare for their disability expenses. So I haven't seen anyone say, no, that's not acceptable. I haven't seen anyone say, no, that condition does not apply. I haven't seen those situations yet. Just because I'm talking about it right now. One of the other questions that I get is, I understand this program is new. What are the chances of it going away? What happens if, they just take this program away? I'm here to tell you this program is not going anywhere. As of this morning, the state of Michigan has opened 4,867 accounts, and we have $19.96 million deposited. I got 20 million reasons why this program is not going anywhere. People are using these accounts. People need these accounts. And that's just in Michigan. Nationwide, we have over $750 million deposited in these accounts, $750 million. These accounts are not going anywhere. They're only going to get bigger.
Thanks, Scott. This is Kelly. Another question that we had coming in, if parents start putting money into the account based upon to use for college education or for a disabled son or daughter, is there a time limit to funds being in the account?
I'm going to answer that question 2 different ways. Okay. There are a number of people who start saving for higher education expenses when children are very young. Some of us started when their children were born. And then a condition presents itself or develops or happens, and now this child is no longer most likely going to go on to higher education because of that disability. The money that's in those 529 education accounts can be moved from that education account into an ABLE account. Because like I said earlier, an education account can be used for essentially four things: tuition, books, computers, and lodging. That's it. Where an ABLE account can be used for all of those things, plus housing, transportation, medical supplies, assistive technology. So you can use it for a lot more. So the answer to your question is yes, you can move money from an education account into an ABLE account. The statute that allows it sunsets in 2025. So I don't know if it'll get extended past 2025 or if it will just end then. So the answer to your question is there is a time limit where you can move money from an education account to an ABLE account, but there is no restriction in how long the money has been in an education account for you to move it to an ABLE account. As far as the IRS is concerned, it's a 529 transfer to another 529 account. So there's no tax penalty, no penalties or anything associated to that.
Thanks, Scott. And just to clarify, I want to make sure we're covering that question completely. So say someone is putting money into the MiABLE account for a child, like a parent putting into a MiABLE account, and their goal is to use that money for education. I don't know if you mentioned this earlier, but if we could reiterate, is there a time limit on the MiABLE account and when those funds can or cannot be used, or do they expire?
Great. No, there is no time limit on when you can use an ABLE account. I have talked to clients who have made deposits and withdrawals in the same week. So yeah, there's obviously there is some banking time depending on the type of deposit, depending on the amount of the deposits, but usually those are a matter of days. So yeah, there's no limit. If you were to make a deposit today of $1,000, you theoretically could use that money tomorrow if you needed it.
Awesome. Thanks, Scott. And along those same lines, another question, because you had mentioned that there can be a guardian or parent opening a MiABLE account on behalf of an individual with a disability. So in the event of a child having a parent open a MiABLE account for them, when does the ownership transfer from the parent to the child? Is it at age 18? And what does that process look like?
Well, let me clarify something. The owner of the account, regardless of the age of the beneficiary, and when I mean beneficiary, I'm talking about the person with the disability. So regardless of the age of the person with the disability, the money's theirs. Doesn't matter if they're 2 years old or 36 years old. The money is theirs. So what happens in the case of an individual who is a minor and the account is opened up by a parent? So let's say I have a 16-year-old daughter. I opened the account today as her parent. When she turns 18, she is entitled to what's in that account. It's her money. Regardless of the fact that I've been depositing it, it's hers. It's under her name, her social security number. It's her money. However, if your daughter in this situation were to have developmentally disabled or one of those conditions that might warrant having somebody have power of attorney for her, in my situation, I would have power of attorney. That's when you would submit that, and then you would no longer, in legal terms, you'd no longer be the parent, you'd be the power of attorney. So when they turn 18, an individual who is a minor, the money becomes theirs. It's always been theirs, but they have control over it at that point, unless you have some form of legal documentation. And that's what I do. That's what I counsel people to do is, if you're opening an ABLE account for a child, be prepared when they turn 18 to have that legal information in place so that you're still, for lack of a better term, in charge.
Thank you for clarifying that, Scott. And I know you did mention this earlier, and you may mention it again in a minute, but Is there anyone at the state that people can reach out to if they have questions related to the MiABLE program, or if they already have a MiABLE account and they just want clarification, like what you just mentioned, or additional information? Where can they go for that?
Yeah, he's a really, really handsome guy. Me, because I'm the only guy. You can send requests for information to myable@michigan.gov. I'm the only one that has access to that account. So if anybody has a question, it's going to come to me. In addition to policy questions and what if situations, I'm always available to answer. I need help with my account, or if anybody has issues, not so much anymore, but when the program was first established, there were a number of even state agencies like DHHS that had no idea what an ABLE account was. And I had to answer questions for actual state employees to say, hey, you need to not worry about their ABLE account. It does not impact their eligibility. So if anybody has any problems like that, directly email me at myable@michigan.gov. That's what I'm there for. And while I'm talking about the email address, if any of you have any events or parent groups, disability advocacy groups, any group that might benefit from listening to me talk for 43 minutes about ABLE accounts, or people who need to know about ABLE accounts, please send me an email. Prior to the pandemic, I traveled literally throughout the state, from Detroit to Sault Ste. Marie to New Buffalo to Escanaba, talking about ABLE accounts throughout the state of Michigan. I can't do that anymore. I don't know if I'll ever be able to do that, but I still need to get the word out. I still need to talk to this population about these accounts. And this being an ADA celebration, I thought it was a great opportunity for me to get in front of people who are already in the disability advocacy industry to help get the word out about these programs.
Thanks, Scott. We do have at least one more question. What happens to the account funds if a child with a disability, or even anyone with a disability, passes away prior to turning 18 years old?
Okay, it's a great question, and it is the number one concern, especially with parents. If I contribute to this account, what happens to the money when my son, my daughter passes away, even if it is, tragically? The answer to the question is Medicaid has the right to claim any money that they have spent from the time the ABLE account was open. That's first. But Michigan Medicaid has never made a claim to what's left in an ABLE account. I can't tell you that they won't ever, but I can tell you that they have not ever yet. So, assuming Medicaid doesn't make a claim to what's left in the account, it goes through the normal heirship process, just like any other financial asset. It would go to, did the person establish a will? Did they establish a trust? Did the courts involved and have to do probate? And then it would go through the normal, next of kin type of heirship.
Thanks, Scott. We had another question come in. Would you recommend that folks write or contact their representatives to support raising the age for eligibility? Do you think that would be helpful?
Yes and yes. I, as a program administrator, can't lobby, but yeah, as I've mentioned, there are a number of people that I can't help right now with this program. There are a number of people that need this program that can't avail themselves. We guesstimate that there are 300,000 people in the state of Michigan that could avail themselves of this program. We have less than 5,000 enrolled right now. So we've only scratched the surface. If they raise the age of onset from 26 to 46, we think our population will more than double to around 600,000 or 700,000 people in Michigan who could be ABLE beneficiaries. So I've still got a lot of work to do to get the word out to those 295,000 other people. But if they raise the age of onset, it's going to do two things. Number one, it's going to increase my potential population by a factor of 2. And the great thing about that is the more money that we have in the program, the cheaper it's going to be for each individual person. As we grow, we gain economies of scale, and we don't have to worry about, the individual little fees, because now I've got a big chunk of money to deal with. $20 million is a big chunk of money. $200 million is a bigger chunk, and it has that much more weight behind it. So yes, by all means, and remember, this is federal representation. So contact your United States Senator, contact your House of Representative member, because it's needed. There's no doubt about it. It's needed. When the original legislation was passed, of the 435 members of the House, I think 400 voted for it. This is needed. It's definitely a good program. So I don't see how expanding it and making it bigger is going to make anything worse. It's needed. So yes, please, by all means.
Thanks, Scott. And we do have another question coming in. And we just to clarify for anyone listening today as an attendee, the session is set to run till 3. So we have some time for more questions. If you have some, just type them in the chat. But this question is pretty interesting. Is this MiABLE program being used for children who may be in foster care, particularly those who may be aging out soon? Have you ever heard of an instance of a MiABLE account being used for a foster care recipient?
I don't have specific account details on people necessarily in foster care or in any type of institution or anything along those lines. Remember, the impetus to this program is individuals with disabilities. So that being the case, if you had an individual who was in foster care and had a disability, yes, they would be allowed to open an account, but I don't know of any in my current population. The one thing, speaking of aging out, the one group that we are really targeting in our outreach is the intermediate school districts, because they have those transition programs, especially for people with learning needs. At 25, they're out. They can't get the services of the schools anymore. So that's one of the populations that we're targeting, so that they can plan for what they call that transition from out of high school into the real world.
Thank you so much, Scott. It says, what about state guardians? Maybe they could get donations, or is that just for the person with the disability that would get the donations?
Well, in order to get the donations, it's got to be a person with an ABLE account, so it would have to be the beneficiary. I did actually speak, I think it was 2 years ago, to the Michigan Guardianship Association, and they're all on board for this. I mean, they realize the benefits of these accounts for their clients, and they understand that, again, this population has been told, sorry, you can't save. Sorry, you can't be financially self-sufficient. Now they can, or at least get closer to it with an ABLE account.
And the next question, have you worked with any agencies who provide guardianship for many individuals?
We do have a number of what's called corporate guardians that have enrolled their clients in ABLE accounts. So yes, is the answer to that. Oh, that's Joetta. I know Joetta. How are you?
Always nice to see friendly faces as the
Yes.
attendee. Joetta says she's fine. All right, well, if there are no more questions from the group, I think we can move on to the next slide.
Okay, I've already gone over it, but I'm going to say it again because I need to plug it. If you know of any disability advocacy groups, parent groups, anybody who wouldn't mind listening to me for 50 minutes, please send me an email, miable@michigan.gov. My job is to get the word out about this program. Unfortunately, I don't have a monstrous marketing budget where I can flood the airwaves with MiABLE commercials, but I'll go talk to anyone, anywhere, especially virtually, from MiABLE World Headquarters, my office.
Thanks, Scott. And then just to reiterate, the information for contacting is www.miable.org. And then you can call customer services at 844-656-7225. Next slide, please. We do want to give a thanks to Scott DeVerona for helping us today during our session, providing this very valuable information, answering all of your great questions. And we would like to thank the Michigan Department of Treasury for allowing him to be here and participating in the ADA 30 series. I'd also like to give a special thanks to our ASL interpreters, April and Toy, and our CART service provider for today's session as well. Thank you, Annette. Next slide, please. So thank you for joining us. We will be concluding our session shortly. If you're curious about the materials for today's session, you can go to www.michigan.gov/ADA30. That's also where we are posting additional ADA 30 sessions that are upcoming in November. For example, next week, DNR will be providing a very informative informational session about the different programs and services that they offer and the accessibility features of those programs. And we also invite you to share your story on social media using hashtags ADA30 and hashtag MiADA30. That's hashtag MiADA30. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Toy and April. Good job.